Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share my full review, the digitally digested segment, for the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1. Now, of course, this has a formal title in terms of model number. I'm not getting into that. That'll be in the title. That'll be in the information. Don't worry, you can click that little down arrow underneath the video and check it all out. What this is all about is that Dell has produced a laptop, as you can see here, for over $1,000 US. Comes in various configurations. That basically takes the XPS 13 and makes it a 2-in-1, because these hinges permit this full HD screen to flip all the way around and give you a tablet, which you'll see right now as I do it so seamlessly. Right there, now we have, in theory, a tablet. And of course, you can see immediately the XPS 13 2-in-1 asking me, you want to go into tablet mode? You want to play with me like I'm a tablet? Which you can do. It also supports Wacom pens, so if you want to get the Dell Wacom stylus, you can go ahead and use this for drawing and things like that. But the first and foremost, most important thing I want to mention here, processor. All right, let's get that out of the way right here at the beginning, because the processor in here is marketed as an i7. It's a beautiful machine, by the way. The build quality is fantastic. Dell has not missed a beat with that. If there's one thing they hit out of the park, it's design. Everything looks and feels like it's well made. And unlike a lot of other products out there, I don't feel like it is a Apple clone. Of course, there are some things that will remind me of that, but inherently, this is a great machine in terms of build quality, and that edge-to-edge glass display is great, even though it's not 4K, and why would you need a 4K display in this form factor, this footprint? It still does everything I would want and more. But again, let's focus on processor. So this specific build has a Core i7 CPU, at least in name. It is a Y series low voltage processor, not to be confused with a U series. The U series is what you would traditionally find in competing products for this device, like a Surface Pro, or HP's offerings, Lenovo's offerings that compete directly with it at around $1,000. They all have U series processors, which are faster, more powerful processors. The advantage to those CPUs is that if you want to do anything like video editing or get into editing anything photographically with Adobe, you're going to get better raw performance. Okay, computational performance there is going to be better. Doesn't mean this machine can't do that. Now, on the flip side, what this machine has in its favor is that because it's sporting a Y series, which by the way really means M, for those of you wondering, what is this Y thing? It's really the M generation of years past, which was even less voltage. But the one upside was no requirement for active cooling. If you don't know what I mean by active as opposed to passive, no fans. So this thing is completely silent. I haven't heard any, coil whine, which, has been like a signature of Dell that every user that hates that hates. Haven't heard it. I've seen reports about it when charging. In terms of performance, it does everything well so far. I mean, I've really yet to see it do anything and say what is wrong with this machine. It's not performing to my expectations. The display is touchscreen. This model does have 16 gigs of RAM. I do recommend going with the 16 gig version. It also has a 256 gig PCI Express drive. That's another reason I recommend this specific build. You can get this in the 8 gig of RAM version with a smaller hard drive, which I believe is not a PCI Express drive, but rather a traditional M2, so a little bit less performance there. But the same processor in terms of it being a Y series. You're not going to find this machine with a U series. So if you really need a U series class i7, you should be looking at different machines. That's first and foremost. Now, you do have a fingerprint scanner right here, fingerprint reader, which is a nice touch. And otherwise, this machine looks exactly like the already established XPS 13, which has been on the market. The only real difference is the hinge that does allow you to go all the way around, and then, of course, bring in that Wacom stylus, which does not come with the machine. I would have liked to have seen it included for this price point. I think Dell should have. That's another critique I'll put out there right now. The touchpad, fantastic. I mean, it really just works flawlessly. I couldn't ask for more when it comes to that. But, beyond the glass trackpad, you do have the ability, as I already showed you, to zoom in, zoom out, use the touchscreen however you want. And response is totally beyond adequate. I won't say perfect because nothing is in life, but it works very, very well. Now, when it comes to representing the colors it should, in the Adobe spectrum, it's only in the 70s. So if you're using this for color proofing of any sort, photos, again, this is not your right laptop choice. It just isn't. This is more like the business user who wants enough power in a very lightweight package that's, made, I would say, very well. It's well built. In terms of ports that it has applicable on board, it has 2 USB Type-C ports. One, of course, is dedicated for charging the device. Battery life is good, not great. I would say overall you're looking at something like 7 to 8 hours, depending on what you're doing. That's with screen brightness not cranked all the way up. If you do crank screen brightness all the way up, expect it to drop off. You can see right now, you can't really see it, but it's estimating 14 hours and 26 minutes of battery life with 99% remaining. That is complete crap, okay? But anyone who's bought a PC or any computer in the last 20 years knows that anytime Dell tells you your estimated battery life, it's complete crap. So real world, 7 to 8 hours, you're in good shape. That's if you're keeping the screen brightness at around 50. I have it at 75 right now. In terms of, again, color representation, it's good. Brightness, also good, but this is not a color proofing machine. This is really more about, like I said earlier, a professional on the go that wants a machine that's powerful enough to handle light tasks, as ironic as that sounds. And you can still get away with doing some video editing. You can still get away with doing some tasks in Photoshop, but this would never be my first choice. I can tell you that right now. And it wasn't purchased to be my first choice. So that's something to keep in mind. But in terms of overall performance, it is solid. It's just a matter of what type of user it's directed at. Dell did not intend for this machine to be a go-to for a YouTuber who's dealing in 4K content like myself. Could it handle it? Yes. Would it be a machine of preference? Absolutely not. And that's why I purchased this as a gift for someone else, not me. In my case, I absolutely would need something. I would go beyond the U series. So this is not in my realm, but that doesn't mean I can't review it and tell you that I think it's a decent machine or not. Now, the Wi-Fi on board is not the killer series of Wi-Fi that Dell traditionally leans on, especially in the XPS 13. It is an Intel chipset. Graphics, you're looking at Intel 615. So this can game, but how much are you going to game with it? I don't really know. The 16 gigs of RAM is going to give you more than enough ability to multitask, and that's why I recommend it over the 8. I mean, if you were to ask me if I would prefer this over an entry-level Surface Pro or Surface laptop, absolutely, no question about it. But once you get up into Microsoft's higher-end offerings, of course, there's more processing power, but they also come at a significant cost bump up. So that's another thing to be aware of. The backlit keyboard is good, same one you'll find on the XPS 13. I find everything about it to be completely serviceable. I've done a considerable amount of work on this in testing it. So I can speak directly, even though this was a gift for someone else. I ended up using it. I know that sounds weird. I don't really care. The whole point is that it works well. I've worked on this for hours. That's how I know the battery life I just estimated is realistic. I know I'm not giving you a show here. Let's go to ESPN. I know people don't want me to get too political. I'll save that for the channel that will be coming soon in the future, even though I may get political here. But we can all pretend sports are not political, but here I'm going to complain already. I don't care about soccer. Why is this the top? I don't care what's going on right now. This is just the fact that soccer is the one thing that populated, and then we get some fighting, is just weird. This is a weird fight that I'm not even going to get into right there. Again, I don't know how well this is resolving. I'm not in my studio, as you may have already noticed, not in the rental I was in before, and I'm certainly not back in my own home. But if we go to the NFL, something I actually have interest in, my New York Giants right here. Let's see if Odell Beckham is complaining about wanting the most money in the league, something he likely will never get. But this is going to be a scary lineup. I know those of you are here for the laptop review, but talking about how Brandon Marshall and Ingram, the brand new tight end, are going to be scary, and that's part of the reason I don't think, even though they're showing Beckham doing a little jump over there, is going to get the money he wants. But anyway, side note, totally off topic, and most of you tech nerds like myself probably don't give a crap about the NFL. That's just, I used to work in TV for Monday Night Football, so that's why this will always come around at some point or another. And maybe there'll be a Giants channel. Now I'm really boring you. But anyway, the whole point is that performance here is very good. I'm going to take you to YouTube. I mean, it's just, you're never going to see it miss a beat when it comes to browsing, watching video, whether it's Netflix, YouTube, any streaming service. You're not going to have an issue. It's only when it comes to, again, things that take a lot of raw computational power that you're going to find an issue. I'm going to go ahead and search my own channel. We'll see how I populate, even though I'm not even logged in here. There's my mug right at the top of the screen and my little mini A7R April Fools, which I'm not a big fan of. April Fool's videos usually suck. We all know that. Especially the YouTubers that have a lot of subscribers and like to, whether they're mailing themselves in boxes, whatever the stupid crap is they're up to. But let me go ahead and show you a good sample, which I just actually shot the other day. Let's also get some volume on this, which is not going to come across incredibly well. Let's get Carly Kloss off there, because you're not going to actually be able. Brand new SEL 100 to 400. Pretty loud speakers. Full frame FE lens. This is a G Master piece of glass. It does not have a fixed aperture, but still, this is the longest range you can get natively with an FE piece of glass. Now I just wanted to get that out of the screen. Let's go ahead and resume playback, and you'll see what this looks like in terms of where we're at. 1080p is the screen's max res, so no reason to go beyond that. And the network where I'm currently staying sucks. So let's go ahead. I'm sitting at 400 millimeters on the A7R Mark II. No clear image zoom. Audio is, of course, on board, built into the camera. We are on a video tripod. Just wanted to show what image detail looked like, how it resolved in video at the long end, and also give you an idea of how quick it is to focus. So I'm going to do a little bit of panning here. You can see it picks up the tree fairly well. Screen quality is very good on this laptop. See, now if we can get that house, we do. Move on to a tree that's right in front of us. You can see fairly quick to lock on and get that tree. All right, I don't want to spend too much time on this. You can see if I jump ahead, no buffering, and that's with this crap Wi-Fi network that I'm on. An Apple airport is driving this experience, which makes me want to gag and throw up. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. Hopefully I'll help the person where I'm staying. I mean, they're helping me, so it makes sense, right? Get them onto a mesh system like everyone in the world should be on at this point. Because traditional routers are, they're beyond passé. They're from another era now, especially with trying to make a home smart altogether. It doesn't make any sense anymore to have a traditional router. But jumping out of this, you can see this is going to perform all of the tasks that you would generally want to see a machine of this caliber, this size, handle. The real novelty is, of course, what I just did. I flipped it over, turned it into a tablet. It's a little over 2 pounds, a little under 3, I should say. So is it heavy for a tablet? Sure. But can the XPS 13 do that? No. The pen input, I haven't been able to test, but I've seen plenty of tests done with it, and it looks good. It performs well, and that's another thing that I would be the first one to tell you the pen input's going to be crap if it was crap. And that was something I suspected was possible because of that i7 Y series, that fake i7 processor that Intel just is trying to confuse the world with. It is an M series, again, advantage, no noise, passively cooled, no fans. If you noticed, well, I haven't shown you the machine, so maybe that's why you haven't noticed. If you look at the side of the machine, there's no ventilation whatsoever. I mean, zero, nada, no vent, nothing. You just have that little indicator for how much battery life is left, which I'm not in love with for obvious reasons. Apple. And then you have your 3.5mm headphone jack, Type-C USB port, which is great. They do include a Type-C to traditional port, for those of you wondering. On the other side, a micro SD card slot. Boy, do I wish they had put a full size on, which sounds really awkward. But a full-size SD card slot is on board the regular XPS 13. Don't ask me why they decided to forego it here, because the footprint is very similar. Another Type-C port, Kensington lock, your power button, and then that's one of two speakers right there, if you can see it. I'm trying to bring that into focus. Again, this is far from a studio that I'm working in. But it's pretty much it. This all aluminum metal build, glass, the XPS branding at the bottom, and you can actually open this up for those of you that are wondering. It's mostly battery, though. Don't get too excited. And it does get hot. I have already noticed, without me closing this up completely, that this area right here is where most of the heat is coming from, and that's because the processor, I believe, is located here. As are most of the guts. This is all battery pretty much. So that's why most of the heat is going to emanate right out of this cross section. But the machine does a very good job of doing exactly what it can, which is, again, being a lightweight, versatile, tablet-esque, again, 2-in-1 as it's marketed. Is it going to be a video editing machine? Someone asked me in the unboxing. I wouldn't pick it as a video editing machine, absolutely not. And it wasn't purchased as a gift to be one. That's the whole point. It was really purchased to be an all-around machine that could do a little bit of everything. So this is a jack of all trades, but certainly I don't want to call it a master of none, because it is a master of some, which are light computing tasks. And when it comes to battery life, it's fairly competent. I mean, the 7 to 8 hours at 50%, that's pretty good. If you take it up to 75%, you're looking at more like 5 to 6. And that's where all of a sudden you might be turned off if you need that higher level of brightness. I don't think you will. I didn't toggle through, but I will right now. It's still saying we have over 12. So you can see it went from 14 hours, 14 and a half nearly, to 12 hours, going from 99 to 96. So Dell, full of crap. But this is also Windows that's full of crap. I mean, they need to get this straightened out already. We're now at 100% brightness. I'm going to try to give you as best a view of this as possible. Let's take it down. 0, I just went too fast. Let's do this again. 50, 75, 100. Let's go back to 0. So, I mean, if you keep it at this profile, which I would never do, then you might actually see 9 hours. It's possible. Take it up to 25%. It seems pretty bright on camera, but in person, it's still relatively dim. Take it up to 50. This to me is passable. This is where I think is the real sweet spot. But if you go up to 75, which is where I've been keeping it, because I'm not a road warrior trying to milk this machine for every drop of battery life that it can use, then I think you're good at 75, and then finally 100. Now, one thing I want to point out is the beauty of that USB Type-C port on there. Even though this is not a powerhouse because of that Y series i7, you do still have the ability to charge this device relatively quickly, and then alternatively your phone. Some people may think that's overrated, or it's on a lot of other devices. It is. I would not buy any laptop today that does not have, or computer for that matter, that does not have a Type-C port. If you are, you're doing something wrong. I don't care what kind of deal you're getting. If you don't have Type-C and you're making a brand new purchase, it's a current gen device, there's something wrong with it. One plug should be able to charge everything, carry information. By the way, I didn't mention before that the Type-C port on this side actually has a DisplayPort logo on it. Let's see if I can get it into focus. Stick a thumb in there. That also sounds awkward. you should be able to see it, and that's because that's your means for video out. You will need an adapter, which is a pain in the ass. I can't tell you it's not, but that will change with time. When TVs start throwing, Type-C ports on there for DisplayPort or Thunderbolt, Apple Lightning capabilities. But yeah, that's something I wanted to point out that is relevant. Now, in terms of the brightness of the actual keyboard, it's fairly good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not in a dark room, so you're not going to be able to tell, and I'm not getting off my chair right now to shut the lights off, but it's going to do its job. Going there, it's off, and I think it has 3 settings. So, or 2 rather, right now, levels of brightness. So there's the brightest. I don't know that that's. Let me try to make a little TP here for you. No, that's not working at all. But it does a fairly good job, and as you would expect, again, this is all about build quality and the screen being, I would say one of the best in its class, certainly better than most. Does it outperform the Surface line? Does it outperform HP? I wouldn't say the Surface line, HP. I would say it's neck and neck. In terms of the cameras, that's something I didn't address, which I will right now. You can see them right there at the bottom of the screen. That's also where you, as I bang this into the tripod, get your microphone as well as... So you got the microphone array sitting around the camera right there. You also have the Windows Hello capability. So that's another thing to be aware of. So that's a nicety that you wouldn't necessarily have. I actually think the positioning is good, believe it or not. Some people are like, hey, what the hell is the camera doing there at the bottom? I think it works pretty well if you're trying to video chat, anything like that. I would rather have it down there than at the top of the screen. And that's also part of the design cue of this machine. I mean, if you care at all about what Dell has put into in designing this, then part of that is being aware of that it's going to look much more seamless, industrial, and clean with the camera tucked away down there at the bottom of the bezel rather than up at the top being an eyesore and saying, why do I have that thing up there? Unless they come up with a way to make it eject out like the HP Envy desktop system does. But overall, this is I would say, a good machine. Is it best in class? Well, when it comes to 2-in-1s, I think it is. And that was the reason that I purchased it for that special someone, which now sounds really creepy. But the whole point is that it is really, when it comes to 2-in-1s, best in class. Do I wish it had a Type U series processor? Yes, but then again, Type U still is not powerful enough for myself. This is all, by the way, magnetized. So like right now, the hinge, you can see it's grabbing on. That's magnetic. And the same applies to when you close this little beast up, is that you're going to have a magnetic connection, and it's fairly strong. So when you're opening this up, it's never going to be, easy as 1, 2, 3. You are going to have to use 2 hands. There's no flipping this with one. I mean, from this position, yeah, no problem, but that's because it's open already. Once this closes, you are going to have to use 2 hands to open this thing, to pry open that magnetic force that's keeping it locked up. But overall, again, let's get political. Just to open some things up, let's take a look at John McCain, who he's not looking so hot. He's not well, but boy, did he just give this country a wake-up call. You can see things are moving pretty quickly. Again, the internet in the house that I'm in is crap. In fact, this upload will probably take like 10 hours on this Wi-Fi network. But again, I think that's more to do with the Apple Airport. And the speakers are impressively good. I mean,
Search millions of jobs on Indeed.com, including
and
ones like
part of that is,
nurse.
the design. Go ahead and actually, I'll just mute it. Part of that is the design and the way they've routed this, but also part of it is the fact that you're not competing, again, with any active cooling whatsoever, which I think is critical. It's not necessary to get good audio quality. We all know that. I mean, up until a few years ago, active cooling was the only type that existed. So, and there were certainly, plenty of laptops out there that still had overall solid, if not fantastic, audio performance, but not in this form factor. That's the other thing. And the carbon fiber, I mean, what's not to like? I mean, every design cue here is really on point, and that's part of the reason that I think it wins its category. There's nothing from Microsoft or HP that is aesthetically as nice as this machine, in my opinion. Build quality, looks, no, they don't do it. They make very good attempts, don't get me wrong. I mean, the new Surface laptop, I think, is actually quite ugly. If I wanted the Surface keyboard on a laptop, I would just stick with the Surface Pro. That's part of the reason you haven't seen it here. I thought I'd be reviewing it, but I'm more and more turned off. Doesn't mean it won't come across my table when the time is right, which would have been when it came out, right? But the whole point is that there are caveats to all of those machines. The HP Spectre is a great laptop, I think, in terms of pricing, much more competitive than this one in particular. You're going to get more bang for your buck. Like, I know Best Buy just lowered this from $1,400 to $1,250. Oh, thank you, Best Buy. No big favor there. I mean, this realistically should be around $1,000 at most. But again, you're paying for that. This is really the only machine of its kind. Form factor, build quality. The Spectre doesn't live up to the build quality. I mean, the amount of flex in the screen, this moves a little bit, but the Spectre is like a wobbling bobblehead compared to this. And the Spectre does have a pen for input. So if you're looking at it from that angle, which is going to be easier to write or draw on, this is definitely going to be the better machine. And again, the Y processor, even though it's in an M in disguise, is able to easily handle all pen input that I've seen. So if it had any issue there, that would be a very big problem for selling this device to, again, business pros. That sounds weird. Just anyone who needs it for work, that's on the road, needs to be able to write on screen, take notes, play back video, browse the web, do anything internet-centric, streaming content, whatever it may be, that is work centric, as long as your work doesn't involve encoding, transcoding, doing anything that's really processor intensive. Then you should be looking at a U, if not a higher grade of mobile processor, something that's more desktop like in terms of overall performance. But of course, that will come at the cost of battery life. But overall, this machine does what I expected it to do. I wish the battery life was a little bit better. I wish it had a full-size SD card slot. But other than that, overall, this is, in my opinion, again, a best-in-class product, a little expensive for what it is. Oh, this is funny. Michael Phelps defending the fact that he had a race with a CGI shark. This guy should just be glad anybody cares about him anymore. But that's a whole nother story. It's just, a great machine. Again, a little pricey for what it is, but I think that if you're after this sort of device, Dell has got you, because there's nothing else like it. It's the form factor of a 12-inch laptop with a 13-plus inch display, edge-to-edge glass, very light, competent battery life, up to date when it comes to having those Type-C ports, and actually is to some degree modular. You would expect this to be sealed shut, like hermetically sealed, but it's not, and that actually is a big bonus, although I don't anticipate that most buyers of this machine are going to be looking to upgrade it themselves. That's not necessarily the crowd that this is catered to, especially since I believe this model is, I don't know if it's exclusive to Best Buy, but overall, again, the XPS 13 2-in-1 is a good machine. If you need that hybrid functionality, if you want great build quality, you're going to find it here. Just remember, you're getting a passively cooled i7 Y series processor that is really not going to be a beast. Forget a beast, it's going to be a puppy, really. And it'll get things done, but it is not going to outperform much of its competition. So this is really a matter of, do you need this blend of hardware and when I say performance that isn't for everyone, but actually might satisfy the majority of users out there, because not everybody's looking to do, photo and video editing. That's more of a niche realm. So I think Dell knew what they were doing when they stuck the passively cooled Y in here. Even if they branded it as an i7 to confuse the average user, guess what? Many manufacturers are doing that, and that's part of the reason I'm calling them out on it, as I did at the very top of the video. But we're running up to nearly 30 minutes, and as I said, this is going to take me like 10 hours to upload. It would have if it was 20 minutes, so I don't really want to see how long it's going to take. Do I think this is worth the money? You get an because it should be less expensive. I've said that already. But again, I do think it's the best 2-in-1 on the market right now. Of course, that will change with time. But overall, Dell has put together a nice package here. And they've been doing this in the laptop sector for a while. Desktops, not as good, in my opinion, although Alienware still has a place in my heart. The XPS lineup, not so much. That's where their laptops shine, especially their displays. I mean, Dell's been one of the best in the business for a long time now, and this does not stray from that, even though it's not beyond full HD. Do you really need more than that in something that's so small? If you do, you've got other options, like I mentioned earlier, from Microsoft and Lenovo and HP. They'll give you more res if you really want it. And quite frankly, you can go to other Dell models and get more resolution as well. So there are a lot of options out there, but when it comes to 2-in-1s, right now the XPS 13, in my opinion, is the best of its kind. Does that warrant its price point? Absolutely not. But for someone who needs both, who wants to carry one machine that they really think could do double duty as a tablet as well as a ultrabook style laptop, you're looking at the best available. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button or don't, and feel free to subscribe. Later.